Hey guys, so here's a real quick 33 versus 35 tire review on my Jeep Wrangler right here. Should be a good video because I just got these brand new 33-inch BF Goodrich all-terrain KO2 tires on last week, and unfortunately I think they're a little too small for the setup I have going on right behind me. I have a 2.5-inch suspension lift plus a 1.25-inch body lift. So you can see there's a lot of space in the wheel wells, and I think that looks good. I like that it looks lifted when you see it, but I think I should have just went with the bigger tire like all the forums online were saying. Everyone was just saying just go with the 35-inch or you'll regret it. And I just thought, no, I don't want to have to re-gear because everyone's saying you'll lose power and all that. And once I got these tires on, I just thought they would have looked a little bigger, and they only look slightly bigger than stock. But I didn't notice any power loss. I recalibrated the speedometer and the shift points with my AEV Procal, and I just didn't notice any power loss. So I feel like if I go 35s, which are really only 1.5 inches bigger than these, because these are 305 65 18s, which online it says they measure out to 33.6, and under the load of the vehicle and everything they measure shorter, like basically all tires do. So I calibrated it to actually, it was 32.25 is how tall they are under the weight of the vehicle, and stock tires are only about 31.25. So I imagine the new tires I'm putting on tomorrow are listed as 34.8 inches tall. So under the load of the vehicle, they'll probably be 33.25, 33.5, I'm hoping. So they'll be slightly bigger than this, and I think that's just exactly where I need to be, and hopefully I'll sell these ones now. So I'll just show you real quick kind of like what this looks like now and the measurements and all, and then tomorrow after I get the new tires on, I'll do the same thing and kind of let you know how it drives and if I notice any power loss and any need to re-gear or anything like that. So I figure this is a good time to do this while these are brand new and the other ones are brand new, so it's a really good comparison. They're the same exact tire, both BF Goodrich all-terrain, and yeah, just thought this would be helpful. So here we go. Okay guys, so here's the tape measure up to this BF Goodrich all-terrain KO2. That is 305 65 18, which is supposed to be 33.6. And under the load and everything, you can see the edge is right about 32.25. Towards the middle, we're probably right about 32.5. So that's the size we got while this thing's mounted, inflated, and on the Jeep, it's at 33 PSI right now. So here's just a quick shot to show how much height we're gonna gain going from the 33s to the 35s. So I'm measuring from the ground to the top of the running board, right underneath the driver's side door. So with the 33s, we're at about 21 5/8, somewhere around there. And that's with the 33s on. And this is measured underneath the driver's side door. And when we put those 35s on, I'll measure again to see how much height we gained. Okay, so here's just one last look at these 33s before I put the 35s on tomorrow. This is mounted on my 18-inch stock Sahara rims. So if you have a Rubicon or a Sport, yours are actually 17 inches in diameter, which would make this same tire size look a little beefier because it would be more rubber and less rim. The reason I want to stick with the stock rims is because I like the way the silver looks with my black Jeep, and it's going to save me probably about $1,000 instead of getting 5 new wheels. The only downsides are, one, there's too much back spacing, which basically means everything is going to sit too close to the inner components when you put that wider and taller tire on. So in order to fix that, you need spacers. So I have 1.5-inch Spider Track spacers, which are like a well-known brand, and it was $200 for all 4 of them, so certainly cheaper than getting new wheels. And that basically pushes everything out just enough so there's no rubbing issues with those bigger tires. And the second downside, which really isn't that big of a deal, is that the widest tire they'll let me put on there, at least these big, you know, names like Discount Tire and 4-Wheel Parts, the widest one they would let me mount on there is 12.2 inches wide, which is that 305 width. which is really only just a little smaller than the typical like 12.5 by 35 inch tire. So that's not a big deal to me. And I'll kind of show you what that width looks like. You can see on the spare tire. So still plenty wide and a little wider than, well, quite a bit wider than the stock tire, and then just a little bit less wide than that 12.5 by 35 inch width. So there's that, and that's what everything looks like. I'll kind of do one more far out shot if I can, and we'll see tomorrow what everything else looks like with the new 35s. Thanks, guys. Okay, well, I'm in this big parking lot. I figured I'd take a good before video with the 33s all the way around, and then I'll do the same thing once those 35s are on. That's what that spare looks like with the 33 on. Okay guys, so the 35s are on, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. These 35s are just massive compared to the 33s. I know they're technically not that much bigger, but they just look a whole lot bigger and more aggressive than those 33s did. Definitely should have went with this size right off the bat. It just fills up the wheel well a little more, and you can tell the Jeep's higher too. Especially if you look at this back spare tire, it's just covering up that brake light way more than it did before. And you walk up to it and you're just like, this is a huge tire. So I would definitely recommend, after just my initial looking at this, that if you're debating between the 33s or 35s, just go with the 35s. I've already driven it and it really hasn't had much power loss. I reprogrammed it with that AEV Procal. And I'll do a video later showing how it drives and all that. So there it is. Looks really good now with that amount of lift. Like I said, it's got the 2.5 inch suspension lift and 1.25 inch body lift. This is how it looks from the front. And then next I'll measure those tires for you guys, and also measure the height from the ground to the side step to just kind of show you how much higher the whole Jeep is because of this. And there we go. Okay, so here's the size of the new 35 tire, mounted and balanced and under the weight of the Jeep. It's right at 33 psi, same as the 33s were. And I'm very happy with how much taller it is. We're right at about 34 inches, maybe a hair taller. So we gained about 1.5 inches because that 305/65/18 tire was supposed to be 33.6 and it was only 32.5 when it was on the Jeep, and this one was supposed to be 34.8, so just under a 35. So I was thinking this was going to be around 33.5, 33.75, and it's actually, you know, right about at 34. So we gained about 1.5 inches on the diameter of the wheel. And like I said before, you know, if you're thinking why isn't it actually a 35, almost all 35s that people have installed are going to measure more between 33 or 34.5. It's always going to be a little bit smaller than the actual 35 size that's advertised. So there's that, and let's do the measurement of from the ground to the side step. Okay, so now from the ground to the top of the side step, right underneath the front door, we were at 21 5/8 before. Now we're at right about 22.5. So we gained almost a whole inch of height from the new tire. And remember, we're not getting that whole 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 that we saw from the tire, because half the tire is pushing the Jeep up and half the tire is just filling up the wheel well a little more, so you don't get that all in height. But still, that's a really good amount, and that's the kind of height that's actually going to push the axle up higher and the differential, so that's going to help with off-roading and going over, you know, certain obstacles. So there's that. Okay, so with those new 35s, whenever I would turn at full lock, going in reverse especially, I was hearing this rubbing sound on the wheels, and I was like, uh-oh, what's that going on? And it was actually rubbing against that air dam that's right below the front bumper right there. So I took it off, and it's actually right behind me now. And I'm gonna try just trimming off these edges with a Sawzall and putting it back on and seeing if that does the trick. There's one side. So here's just a quick shot of where I trimmed off on the air dam. I have the wheel turned all the way to the right. You can kind of see where I cut off behind there. I'll show you another view from down here, will probably be easier to see. Yeah, so here's the air dam, goes all the way across the front. And basically it's on there to help with aerodynamics, and apparently you can get hood flutter on the freeway because all that air will be going underneath here. And it helps with gas mileage, which if you drive a Jeep, that's probably not a big deal. So you take it off. There are these 4 tabs up here that you just basically put a flathead screwdriver in and pop them out. And there are 2 more behind here. Let's see if you can, can't really see them, but they're behind that metal plate right there. And basically I took the whole thing off, trimmed 2 inches off here and another inch off here. Now there's plenty of room for turning without rubbing against that, because it was really loud before. It was very noticeable as soon as you would turn like out of a driveway or something. So that needed to be fixed. I didn't have an issue with the 33s, but if you have 35s, you're definitely going to want to trim that. You could take the whole thing off and leave it off if you want, but I didn't really like the way that looked, so I just went with trimming it, and now you can barely notice. Okay guys, so one of the biggest reasons people say not to go to 35s is because of the power loss you'll have. You'll have to pay to re-gear if you want to have the same kind of power that you had with stock tires. Since getting the 35s on, like I said, it's driving mainly the same, maybe a little bit of power loss. And I've actually also noticed that the brakes, I got to push down a little harder to completely stop. Not a huge deal. But I just want to show you real quick. I'm going to be pulling out onto a street, and I'm actually in a city called Valley View. So it's a valley, and there's a really steep hill that you take to get out of it. And I'm going to go from stopped to 35 miles per hour up the hill to just kind of show you that I still have good acceleration and pickup even going up a hill. And then I'll do another little bit of just me on the freeway going, 60, and then, from 60 to like 75 or 80, something like that. So here's that real quick. And I'm just going to show you the, the speedometer so you can see, what's going on there. All right. All right, so here we go. I'm just in a little parking lot, and now I'm going to pull out of here and go up this pretty darn steep hill right here. It actually looks steeper in person than it does now, but here we go. I'm stopped, or I'll stop right before I get into the street. All right, here we go. So that's, the 0 to 35. I wasn't like flooring it, but, I gave it a good amount of gas, and, that's so steady at 35. And then if I even wanted to go faster, downshift's totally fine. The only thing I've done after the tires is just reprogrammed the computer so that it knows it's has 35s on now, and I use the AEV Procal for that. And I'm still going up a pretty steep part of this hill, no problem, barely touching the gas, even with the 35s. So there's that, and I'm gonna hop on the freeway in a second too and show you that. Okay, so I'm just getting on the highway now. Hopefully I won't get in any accidents, but I am looking at the road and not at this phone. So I'm like easily at 70 right now, and I'm just gonna switch over and kind of give it a little more gas. Yeah, and I'm at 80, no problem. I could even go faster if I wanted, but I'm not trying to get a ticket or anything. Yeah, and it's even kind of windy out tonight, so I don't see any issue with the stock gears and 35s. I don't know exactly what gear ratio I have. I guess it's different depending on what year and model you have, but I have a 2015 Jeep Wrangler Sahara 4-door, and yeah, it's really not seeming much different with these 35s. I think the most important thing really is just making sure you have like an AEV Procal or one of those flash cows to just reset the shift points if you have an automatic transmission. And the speedometer and everything should be accurate since I did reprogram it all. So yeah, I'm just gonna do one more, like, okay, I'm down to 60-ish, and now I'm just gonna hit the gas. Yeah, it's literally no problem at all. I was expecting there to be a lot, you know, just less acceleration and really feel like it was dragging. But this 3.6 liter, you know, V6 seems to have plenty of power for what you need with the 35s. Okay guys, so in conclusion, if you're debating between 33s and 35s, just go with the 35s. The 33s are really just only a little bit bigger than stock, and I think you'll just be so much more happy like I am with the 35s, because there's that clear difference of, okay, this is a bigger tire. And especially because I had low expectations, because I was thinking, oh, there's going to be some power loss. It's not going to look that much bigger. But it really does look quite a bit bigger than the 33s, and definitely a lot bigger than the 32, the stock tires. And I've not noticed much power loss at all. I might have been kind of like weaned off that stock, you know, acceleration, because I went from the stock to the 33s to the 35s. But really, I mean, I still had plenty of acceleration, as you saw in that video. And even if I did lose a little bit, it's worth the look and the extra off-road capability of getting these bigger tires. I mainly will use this vehicle as just a daily driver, but on the weekends and that, I'll try to do some off-roading. So I hope this video was helpful. I tried to just do all the practical things that I thought about before getting the 33s and 35s, and just so you can kind of watch this and hopefully make a better decision than I initially did, because now I got to try to sell those 33s and hopefully someone will buy them for a reasonable price. I'll probably take a little bit of a hit on money with that, but not a huge deal. I got the tires I like now, and hopefully these will last me like 3 to 4 years. So if you have any questions or comments, as always, leave them down below. And I'll put links to the AEV Procal and the tires and all that in the description. And of course, like and subscribe. Thanks guys, have a good one.